Hello and welcome back, everyone. Today we are taking a look at the Axiom Discs Crave. Kind of one of those strange in-between discs at a speed of a 6.5. Not quite as slow as a mid, but not quite as fast as a fairway driver. Definitely that unique kind of slot. Let's go ahead, jump right on in by taking a look at the profile and the feel. Now, for this Crave, it actually has a little bit of dome to it. Most of them that I found are very, very flat, but in this Proton plastic, it has a little bit of a dome when compared to, say, the Plasma. As you can see, the Plasma, very, very flat. In fact, it's almost puddle topped. And then you have compared to the Fission plastic, which kind of bridges the gap. It has just a slight amount of dome. I also noticed that was the same with the R2 plastic as well, much like the Fission, kind of a higher shoulder and then just a slight amount of dome to it. And with a disc height of 1.4 centimeters, safe to say a domey Proton was not the one measured for the specs. So maybe I just got an oddball Proton, but if you throw a Proton Crave and they're a lot flatter, please let us know in the comments below. Let's go ahead and transition over to the flight of the Crave, because that's why you are all here. And when thrown on a Hyzer, at least here in the Proton plastic, it'll hold decently. It'll still try to flip up to flat and ride out straight before having a nice forward penetrating finish. But then once you do get it flat, it's going to ride semi-straight. It's going to have a pretty gentle amount of turn just before then at the very end, it'll try to check up and just have the slightest amount of fade. In fact, depending on the height you throw it on, it's almost going to want to land completely flat and not really on that Hyzer angle. However, when you do start getting this onto a turnover line, it is very controllable. It holds the line extremely well, almost all the way to the ground. Just again, depending on the height, at the very, very end, it might just try to flatten itself out, but you don't necessarily have to worry about it Hyzering all the way back. But if you do put it on an extreme anhyzer line, be warned, it will not come back. It is going to hold it all the way to the ground, which does mean, though, that the Crave has a lot of good shot variety. If you want to throw a Hyzer flip, well, it doesn't have too much resistance to torque in the early part of the flight, so you can get beautiful flip up to flat shots that are going to ride very straight down tunnels. You can throw it flat, get effortless flex shots, and again, you can put it on those turnover lines and have it hold those turnovers. So again, just so many different shots that you can really work. Great for in the woods, great for beginners with slower arms, and being a 6.5 speed, the Crave really fills that unique slot where it's not quite as slow as a mid, but not quite as fast as a fairway driver, so you still get really good control, but you don't lose out on too much distance. So it's just a really good in-between style disc where slower arms will really be able to take advantage of being able to get it up to speed easier than, say, some of those kind of faster fairway drivers. All right, let me show you guys how I would use the Crave out on the course. First, starting with this hole, you have a very densely wooded hole, very defined fairway, and then right before the dogleg right, you have that little bit of a landing area that I'm aiming for. With the Crave, I'm going to throw it flat, knowing it's going to get a little bit of turn, just stays in the fairway, and then just again that baby Hyzer at the end that you can trust as it slows down to get into that great pristine landing spot. This hole, you have one big tree to miss right down the middle and a decent gap to the left of it. Again, with the Crave, knowing it's going to get some turn to that mid-flight, just throw this thing on a slight Hyzer to flat, let it flip up, get that gentle, effortless turn in the mid-flight, and then just let it kind of Hyzer its way back. For the next hole, obvious danger is the water, but then you do have this bush just on the other side that if you throw something too low, you could get caught up in. So with the Crave being a very neutral flyer, well, I'm going to start this thing on a turnover line and just let it hold almost all the way to the ground. Just great for shot shaping capabilities. This is just such a really good disc in the woods. It's really underestimated just how good this disc is going to be in the woods. And this is just a very wide open shot. You basically have your pick on what you want to do. For something this wide open, I'm just going to go with a really nice flex shot when it comes to forehand to try to get that maximum distance. So far we've seen what the Proton Crave can do, but the Crave does come in a lot of different plastic types, so you can really find the one that works best for you. Again, the Proton having a little bit of dome, I love for those backhanded shots, but the other versions of the Crave, the other plastic types, a lot flatter, so I personally love them for forehand, especially the Fission. The Fission, I think, kind of, for me, works between the Plasma and the Proton. The Fission still gets a little bit of turn in the mid-flight, it's a little bit workable, not nearly nearly as much glide as, say, the Proton, which is domier, but it still has a good harsh finish to it, so I can trust it on those semi-overstable shots. And then the Plasma, this I think might be the most overstable version of the Crave that I found. Perfect for forehands. It almost gets no turn at all when thrown flat, just very straight, and then just a really nice harsh finish at the end. But then one that's probably almost the most workable, pretty similar to the Fission, maybe a little bit more understable, is the R2 Eclipse. I can put this just kind of on a baby Hyzer. It will ride very, very straight, almost no fade. And like the Proton, it holds that line very well, so even in the woods, I can start it on that Anheuser line and get the R2 Eclipse to hold the entire way. Let's go ahead and check out the Lefty Lines and see a few of these different plastic types side by side, starting with the Proton. Again, rides out straight when thrown flat, then gets a generous amount of turn before, just as it slows down, has a little bit of a Hyzer finish. The Fission mimics the Proton flight decently, not quite as much turn, just a little bit more fade. And then you get to the Plasma, which again I feel is the most overstable version of the Crave. Very straight, almost no turn at all before it just checks up and has a really hard finish. So if you're wanting a Crave that's going to fight the wind, you want to go with the Plasma. Also, again, good torque resistance, so it's great for forehands. And say you're a slower arm or just want a more understable version of the Crave, the Proton and the R2 Eclipse are probably your best bet, as they are very controllable and you can also work them on a lot of different lines. And if you're wanting something that's kind of more in the middle, has some good torque resistance and overstability to it, but still workable, you're going to want to check out the Fission plastic like the one I have in kind of the mid 160 gram range. Overall, the Crave is a very unique disc because it fills that slot between mid-range and fairway driver. It's going to be longer and faster than a mid, but not nearly as long as some of those faster speed 8 or 9 fairway drivers. Well, that is all I have for you today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to subscribe and like this video. Also, visit GreatLakesDisc.com today to get your Crave and use that promo code LEFTY at checkout. That way you are going to help the channel, but also more importantly, save yourself 10%. I greatly appreciate it. Till the next one, everyone, keep banging chains.